Okay, Mr. Watson here, and in this video we're going to look at the zone of optimal functioning. So the zone of optimal functioning, if we look at the CIE syllabus, you'll see it's peak flow experience and zone of optimal functioning. However, I'm going to change the order around and I'll explain that in a moment. So we're going to start with the zone of optimal functioning. Now what this is, it's another theory related to arousal. Okay, so it takes into account a few of the theories, the drive and the inverted U, but it has some differences. And what Hanin has here in his theory, this hypothesis, is something that's a little bit more accurate and a lot more people believe in. Because while the inverted U is well recognized, what the inverted U theory suggests is that everyone's optimal arousal is moderate. Okay, so what this zone of optimal functioning agrees with the inverted U is that we can be under-aroused and we can be over-aroused. However, the optimal point of arousal can change. It doesn't have to be moderate. It's for each individual in a sporting activity. A little bit like we just looked at with arousal and activation and arousal's relationship with task complexity. The task might need a different level of arousal. So that's what we're going to look at. I'm just going to put this straight on the screen here. Okay. And sorry, should just mention what I mentioned at the start. The zone of optimal functioning may result in the experience of flow, peak flow experience. That's why I'm going to talk about peak flow after. Okay. So let's just look at the table at the bottom here. Okay. And this is how I've chosen to present it. So if we look at the bottom there where we've got arousal and the arrows, so we've got low, moderate and high, just exactly like we used to with the other theories, okay? However, what I haven't shown you here is under arousal and over. So I just want you to imagine that if we went further left than low, that would be under aroused. And if we went further right than high, that would be over aroused, okay? So let's start with low zone of optimal functioning. So this is for, in the task complexity, like them fine controlled, potentially such as archery, pistol shooting, and darts, but it's also including marathon runners and cyclists. And what the research suggests is that their optimal performance would happen at a lower level of arousal. Okay, so as you can see, you might start trembling and have them too much physiological aspects in them fine controlled. But also if you are too aroused in a marathon runner, you might offset your pacing, for example. You might not run at the correct pace you're supposed to be running and you might get tired. You alter your breathing rate because we know that's a physiological effect of arousal. And then all of a sudden you're out of rhythm. So what it's saying is that moderate and higher levels of arousal tend to be suboptimal performance. Okay, you might be able to control it, like we said. You can still succeed with high arousal, but what it's saying is that optimal performance would be at a lower level of arousal. Okay, and I just want to point out again where we have the lower. If you were to go a bit further left, you still would have under arousal, just like the inverted U theory. Okay, let's move down to moderate. Okay, so as we know, we've used moderate a lot in the inverted U, and we often give examples of team sports such as basketball and football examples because there's quite a lot of situations happening in them games. So moderate is suggested by research to be the optimal level of arousal for performance. So lower levels would be suboptimal and higher levels would be suboptimal. Again, emphasizing that arousal just doesn't link to poor performance, it's how you control it. Good performance can still happen at low and higher, but what Hanin is suggesting is that optimal arousal is at moderate for team sports. And I just want to mention climbing here. Climbing's another one. If you're under aroused or lower levels of arousal, you might be sloppy, you might make a mistake. It's not something you want to do if you're climbing a mountain, okay, or a climbing wall. And if you're over aroused, you may become too focused on that cue utilization, or you might panic. Hypervigilance, you may become over aroused, and then again, same sort of thing, likely to make a mistake and potential injury. And then finally, we've got the high zone of optimal functioning. Okay, so here we've got shot putters, that gross movement linking back to that relationship, um, and also fighting in there. Okay, so fighters need to be motivated. They're getting locked in a cage or entering a ring, and they're going to combat with someone. So it's important that they actually want to be there. And a fight is actually a pretty good example, because if we went further right and a boxer was over aroused, they'd just be swinging, they'd be throwing haymakers, and the likelihood is they'll be getting their nose jabbed off by a guy who's in the optimal zone. But they still need a high level of arousal, because remember, if you control the level of arousal, even if it's high, you can still be alert and putting your combinations together. So emphasizing that point again. If you're controlling that level of arousal, no matter what it can be, it can enhance performance. Okay, so that's the zone of optimal functioning theory, and it's a well accepted theory because it accounts for individual sports with different optimal levels of arousal for optimal performance. Okay, so let's talk about peak flow experience. So peak flow experience, it's a phrase that's used by sports performers who have this optimum performance, but they associate it with an emotional response. And that's a key point there for exam questions. It's optimum performance, but performers associating it with an emotional response. And the reason I followed on from ZOF is because of they're still achieving optimum performance. So you're more likely to experience this flow state if you're in that zone. Okay? So many top athletes, they describe their feelings where like almost nothing can go wrong. They relate that they're in the zone, okay, where all that matters is the performance. Like everything else is insignificant, okay. So just some things here. You can do anything in the zone. You're on fire. Time passes quickly. That's a common one. You're having so much fun that time becomes distorted, okay? You lose track of time. It just passes quickly. And like, wow, it's been that long, okay? You're insanely productive. You just feel like you're in the zone. You can do anything, okay? Nothing can go wrong, okay? So this experience can be um, explained and related to arousal. Okay, like I said, that zone of optimal functioning, if you're in that zone, that optimal level of arousal, you may or more likely to experience peak flow. Now, there are mental strategies. Of course, if you can experience this thing where it's amazing, you're having fun, everyone wants to do it. There are mental strategies which can help performers achieve this, but we're going to cover that in its own separate video, okay? Because it's quite common in exams, so we're going to take our time with that one. And it actually links into controlling anxiety, controlling stress, controlling arousal. So I'm going to do it in one video and tie everything in, okay? So what we're going to look at now is a little diagram of this peak flow experience. So on the vertical axis, we've got challenges, so low challenge, high challenge, and on the horizontal, we've got skills, low skills, high skills, okay? So let's just say we have a low skill level, low ability level, and we take on high challenges. The likelihood is we're not going to enjoy it. We're going to get fed up. We're going to get over aroused. We might become anxious. We're going to worry. Okay, I can't do this. Okay. However, so anxiety there. However, we might be highly skilled but take on low challenges. And as you can imagine, what's going to happen there is we get bored. We might enjoy the success for a while. However, you're just going to get bored. It's too easy. You know, there's no need to achieve here. This is what's going to happen. So what we're looking for is, let's just say you followed that up towards anxiety there, taking a right and trying to get into this channel, or if you are bored, going up and trying to find the perfect level of what we call this flow channel. So this is where we're looking to be. We're looking to have a nice level of skill and challenge. So one thing you need to be aware of here, you need to have an accurate understanding of your own ability, your own skill level. It's very important that you have that representation in your mind, that you know how good you are. Okay, so that can come from good feedback from a coach, good inner confidence, good self-reflection. And it's important to seek out challenges that are not too difficult and not too easy. They're just getting you outside of that comfort zone, and it's got you thinking, it's got you performing. So it's really important we do that so we can enter this flow channel. Okay? Now, just to finish up with, and this is a screen you might want to pause on, we're going to look at the factors that affect flow experience or the zone of optimal functioning. Okay, so like I said, I'll explain them briefly, but there's a lot of terms here which are kind of like your key in your mark schemes. It's what the examiner's looking for. Okay, so the first factor we're going to look at is concentration. So we're linking this to cue utilization. So if we're in that zone, okay, we're in the zone of optimal functioning, we're in peak flow, you have maximum concentration on the performance, everything else is insignificant. You have that selective attention, which is attention to relevant cues, you're ignoring distractions. So I'm kind of putting your buzz phrases there, what the examiners like to see. So concentration is a massive factor in reaching or associated peak flow experiences and ZOF. Okay, attentional style. Okay, so Nadefa here. So appropriate attentional control, often narrow and internal. You're often looking within yourself because you're getting that emotional response. That's what peak flow experience is. So you're often looking within yourself and finding that inner comfort, that inner fun, that satisfaction. Okay, got confidence, so high level of confidence, self-efficacy, Bandura, mastery orientation. You need an appropriate level of challenge, okay, that need to achieve, and you feel in control, that nothing can go wrong. Goal setting. So as we know from our goal setting, clear goals direct attention. They help us focus, okay? They give us that high level of achievement motivation, okay? Because the goal is realistic. It is achievable. It's agreed. You're in the zone. You're in control of that goal, okay? Sometimes more likely to be a process or performance. Forget about the product. You're in the now. You're in the present moment, okay? Movement. Okay, so movements are automatic, that autonomous movements, little conscious control. So a bit like arousal's relationship with ability level. Okay, so it could be the movement you're performing is perfect in that peak flow moment. It's perfect. You're great. It's high quality. It's effortless. It's fluent. Okay, so as you can see with these words I'm using, this is why athletes go seeking this flow state. They want to be in this zone of optimal functioning. Okay? And then finally, we've got anxiety and arousal. So you're relaxed. There's a lack of stress response. You're not anxious. You're at that optimal level of arousal of the performer. So like we've just established with Hannon, that's not only moderate, it can be lower, it can be higher. The key thing is that you're in control of that arousal. Okay, so like I say, this is a screen you might want to pause on. Common questions in the exam, an important screen. So anyway, that's the zone of optimal functioning and peak flow experience. So I hope you got something out of this video. Thank you.